You're listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis, the only podcast focused on the biohealth capital region. Each episode, we'll talk to leaders in the industry to break down the biggest topics happening today in biohealth.
Hi, this is Rich Bendis, your host for BioTalk, and we have a very special guest today, and it's an international guest from Korea who has developed a special relationship in the United States and with the state of Maryland, as he has lived within this region 3 times during his career. We have Dr. Hakdo Kim, who is president, Korea SMEs and Startups Agency, better known as KOSME, K-O-S-M-E, and we welcome Dr. Kim to BioTalk today.
Thank you for your kind introduction. 안녕하세요. 저는 중소벤처기업진흥공단 이사장 김학도입니다. 네, 반갑습니다.
Dr. Kim, since most people don't know you in America or in this region and have never heard you on BioTalk before, could you please do a little self-introduction about your background, your education, and your professional experience and how you've grown to your new position as president of KOSME, and a little bit about your background in America?
예, 저는 우리 중소기업과
Good afternoon. I'm Hakdo Kim, President of Korea SMEs and Startups Agency, also known as KOSME. I've been working in the public sector for about 30 years in the fields of international trade, small and medium businesses, industries, and most recently in the biohealth area. As for my educational background, I majored in international trade from the Seoul National University in South Korea. And I earned my PhD degree in economics at the University of Southern California here in the U.S. And then I took my first job as a public servant in the Korean government. I started my career and stayed at the Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy, otherwise known as MOTA, for about 30 years up until recently. As Director General, I was responsible for supporting new businesses in the field of engineering, robotics, design, and of course biohealth that we'll be talking about today. And when I was Deputy Minister, I led the free trade agreement negotiations with 10 countries on behalf of the Korean government. And among those countries include Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Turkey, and Israel. Then from MOTA, I took office as President of Korea Institute of Advancement and Technology, also known as KIA. After my brief stint there, I returned to the public sector working for a year and a half as Deputy Minister of MSS, Ministry of SMEs and Startups, and then appointed as President of KOSME since May of last year.
Based on your education and background, it's very easy to see how you evolved into your current role as President of Korea SMEs and Startups Agency, KOSME. And the other thing I understand is KOSME is 41 years old now, but you haven't been there 41 years. But I think our listeners would love to know more about what are the roles and responsibilities of KOSME and what is the mission for the agency in Korea and what you are doing globally.
네, 지금 간단하게 저희 중소벤처기업
Thank you for the question. Let me briefly introduce KOSME. As you mentioned, it's been 42 years since its establishment. KOSME, which is now governed by Ministry of SMEs and Startups, was first established by Ministry of Trade, Industry, and Energy in 1979 to promote small and medium-sized businesses. Our goal is to foster the competitiveness of SMEs and nurture more balanced development of Korean economy with sustainable growth of SMEs. SMEs are currently faced with numerous difficulties accessing vital information and funds. To help this situation, we are currently providing a total solution for SMEs activities at the level of real economy, from startup assistance to scale-up, growth, and overseas market entry. KOSME is running government funds of about $6 billion to implement various government programs such as policy funds, overseas marketing, human resources development, and startup technical assistance. Since I took office as president in May 2020, we have been focusing on facilitating digital transformation of SMEs in this era of COVID-19, especially with policy funds for smart factories, development of highly skilled workers for those facilities, and export through e-commerce is important. Furthermore, KOSME has 32 regional offices nationwide in South Korea. which have been providing government support, including policy funds for our local SMEs at every corner of the country. And there are SMEs now facing financial crisis caused by the pandemic. We have a role of what we call social safety net for helping them with new programs for financial restructuring and return to normalcy.
Dr. Kim, it's very obvious with your international trade experience and your relationships you've had developed around the world in all of the different countries that you're well positioned within KOSME to continue building these international relationships for Korea. Can you please discuss some of these international relationships you've helped develop, as well as what has been accomplished in the state of Maryland, especially with the new Memorandum of Understanding, which you have just successfully completed in signing this week on your recent visit?
우리 코스메하고 메릴랜드 주는
KOSME and the state of Maryland has been in very close relationship. If I may insert a personal anecdote, 30 years ago, I worked at the Korean Embassy in Washington, D.C. as assistant commercial attaché while I studied in Johns Hopkins as a visiting scholar. At the time on national level, the three provinces of South Korea, Chungbuk, Gyeongnam, and Jeonnam, had a collaborative relationship with Maryland. And of these three provinces, 10 years ago, Chungbuk delegation were on a trade mission to Maryland, where I was involved. I was born in Chungbuk, and the First Lady Yumi Hogan was born in Jeonnam. Anyway, aside from this, what matters most is that South Korea and Maryland have something in common in the industrial structure. For instance, information and communications technology and biohealth are the industries that Maryland dominates in the U.S., just like the core industries of South Korea. And both South Korea and U.S. now put a priority on carbon neutrality. In particular, South Korea launched what we call the Korean New Deal Initiative, which focuses on digital transformation and carbon neutrality, and plans to help SMEs become more competitive in these areas. Maryland is now leading such initiative for the U.S., as you well know, in developing its own offshore wind power generation complex. When it comes to biohealth, as you're very familiar with our MOU with BHI this year, on that foundation, we're running a market entry program to support Korean companies. And just today, this morning, we had an MOU signing with Maryland. I believe it is more meaningful because this will lead up to the expansion of partnerships in both high-tech and green technologies, and also biohealth. And I expect that it will be more helpful for Korean companies to enter the U.S. market through the state of Maryland and contribute to further cooperation and mutual development of both countries.
Dr. Kim, it's very interesting to hear that some of the Korean priorities are similar to those priorities we have in America and especially here in Maryland. You mentioned carbon neutrality, digital transformation, and biohealth, and I love the term biohealth being incorporated now, because Korea was really the first country that I have seen to adopt biohealth because of the changing market and industrial world where all of this convergence is happening. How important is the biohealth industry to the Korean economy?
세 가지 측면에서 말씀을 드리고 싶은데요.
Let me answer your question from three perspectives. First, biohealth has become a new growth engine, especially in light of the COVID-19 that affected globally. And the response of the Korean government to this pandemic was phenomenal. I might add, the export volume of Korean biohealth in 2020 was at record level of $14.1 billion US dollars, up 54.4% from 2019. It exceeded $10 billion US dollars and became one of the top 10 export items for the first time. With respect to the share of the total export, saw an increase to 2.7% from 1.6%. Second, investments in tech startups in South Korea, including ones in biohealth industry, recorded an all-time high at about $4 billion US dollars in 2020. This was a result in part of the Korean government's effort to bring what we call the second venture boom, the first of which happened in the late 1990s and in the early 2000s. I think it shows how hard the Korean government is trying to foster and build up high technologies in biohealth. And as part of such efforts, the Korean government kicked off an initiative of Korean Biohealth Innovation Strategy in 2019, aiming to expand the world's market share of Korea by triple for new pharmaceuticals and medical devices, and to nurture the biohealth to be the top 5 export item that will create about 300,000 new jobs. Third, as I mentioned earlier, KOSME is now running market entry programs for Korean biohealth companies in partnership with local organizations in 2 big biohealth markets of the U.S., Maryland and Chicago. Having said this, I have every confidence in BHI as our close partner in working towards our goal. Mr. Bendis, it is my pleasure and honor to work together with you.
Dr. Kim, one of the things that we really value is this new relationship that Biohealth Innovation has developed with KOSME through our Memorandum of Understanding that we established in May of 2021. And it really is a pilot program to assist Korean SMEs in the medical and healthcare field to enter the United States. And we are working with 5 excellent companies that were selected on a competitive basis in Korea. And I'll just mention their names. Bodytech, VNTC, MediHub, Falafos, and Medicine are the 5 companies that were selected that BHI is working with today. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the goals that KOSME developed in entering into this MOU and what your expectations are for that program.
미국이 세계 최대의 바이오헬스 시장입니다.
The U.S. is the world's biggest biohealth market, especially Washington metropolitan area, better known as BHCR, is the 4th largest biohealth cluster in the U.S. As you know, Maryland has federal agencies, universities and institutions, labs, and global companies in the biohealth field. And first and foremost, it has BHI expertise, working and supporting international biohealth companies for the U.S. market entry. That's why KOSME is in MOU agreement with BHI to run the program for supporting 5 Korean biohealth companies this year. I expect that both organizations will work together, come up with various effective programs in support of our Korean biohealth SMEs for milestone achievements in the U.S. market down the road.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. BHI looks forward to an expanded relationship with you as we try to help more Korean SMEs, especially in the biohealth field, enter the United States market. As we look at what the goals of this 20-week personalized BHI training program are for the 5 initial companies that we are working with, I'd like to have you highlight some of these goals for these 5 companies and what you would classify as a success for them at the end of this initial period.
네, 지금 말씀하신 것처럼
As you mentioned, Mr. Bendis, there are 5 companies that have joined the program with COVID-related items like diagnostic kits, the automatic syringes, which we call as a whole K-quarantine, named after our Korean global musical phenomenon K-pop, medical devices like scoliosis brace, and digital healthcare items like the portable optical coherence tomography. While they are all at different growth stages, they all want to improve their technologies and products, build prototypes, find distributors, seek co-researchers with academies and institutions, and get funded or receive grants. For example, Bodytech was established in 1989 and manufactures diagnostic kits. Based on their own competitive technologies, they export their products to about 120 countries around the world. But the market share in the U.S. for their total export is just at 1%. That's why they joined the program. With the full support of the BHI team, they look forward to getting their research grants, registering at least one item, and finding a prominent distributor to do business in the U.S. on a full scale. With our 20-week program with you, the first 10-week Phase 1 ended in August, and Phase 2 began early September. I hope that BHI team will fully support the companies in achieving their own goals through this program. I am very hopeful and look forward to a great result and partnership.
We are talking with Dr. Hakdo Kim, who is the president, Korea SMEs and Startups Agency KOSME. And we're talking a little bit about opportunities to expand the KOSME relationship in the United States, especially in Maryland and with BHI, to assist them in helping Korean biohealth companies land in America. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that particular goal, Dr. Kim, in helping Korean SMEs land in America in the biohealth industry?
Yeah, thank you for your good question. 지금까지
The program now shows a good progress for each company. We launched the program for the first time this year. So I think that we can see where we can improve by listening to opinions of the companies who joined the program and develop better ones next year. Especially, I hope that we can focus more on supporting them in terms of localization to their target U.S. market, as we also plan to diversify the program in addition to localization itself. One of the ideas we're floating is to arrange virtual meetings between Korean biohealth companies and experts from businesses, academia, labs, and government sectors here in the U.S. It could be a good idea if we can use BHCR Forum, annually held by BHI and Commerce Department of Maryland, as a platform to introduce and connect Korean SMEs to people in Washington metropolitan area. Although, unfortunately, it was held virtually due to the COVID situation this year, I really hope that the event will be held in person next year and see you face-to-face again.
Dr. Kim, as we close this initial interview with you, we're in agreement. This is a pilot program. We're both learning from each other things that we can bring to the table to assist Korean SMEs in entering the United States. I'm sure we have not covered everything that you could probably talk about. Is there anything you would like to talk to the listeners and the audience, both here in the United States and in Korea, that we haven't covered today?
우리 금년 초에 우리가 이제
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bendis. To sum up, early this year, we launched the program to support Korean biohealth companies in partnership with BHI. And today, we just signed the MOU agreement with the state of Maryland. The two partnerships will play a major role in improving the competitiveness of our biohealth industry in both countries and help them lead the global market. As I mentioned, Korea and Maryland have something in common in terms of core industries like information and communications technology and biohealth. I expect the biohealth industry of both countries to develop rapidly in tandem and expand as a powerful triad, Korea, BHI, and Maryland working together. Again, thank you so much, Mr. Bendis, for having me today. I enjoyed your talk very much. Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Hakdo Kim, who is the president of Korea SMEs and Startups Agency KOSME, for giving us the opportunity to do this BioTalk podcast with you today. I know it's the first of many. And as you've stated, in order to continue this relationship, we're hoping that in 2022, we'll be able to do this live so that the companies and BHI and all of the other people in the Maryland area can interact face-to-face, which will really personalize this relationship that we're trying to build with one another. I think this is the beginning of something that can be long-term, because as we know, when you try to transform economies, it does not happen overnight. And I think with your selection process in being able to find the best and brightest in Korea that we can assist in landing in America, it is a really, truly a strong triad, as you explain it, between KOSME, BHI, and Maryland. And we look forward to continuing this relationship, especially at dinner this night, where we can break bread and have a drink with one another.
There is a Korean saying, the beginning is the half of the way we are going.
The beginning is the half.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was very educational. I learned a lot through this today.
Thanks for listening to BioTalk with Rich Bendis.